That night, the sky above Orion City cracked open like time itself had been torn apart. Inside the massive laboratory of the Alpha Explorers, every scientific device suddenly began screaming with alarms. Not because of an attack, not because of a cosmic disaster, but because someone had just arrived from the future. The bathroom door inside the research tower slowly opened. A teenage girl stepped out, her hair slightly messy, a toothbrush still in her hand like she had just woken up. She looked around the room full of scientists and heroes staring at her in shock. Then her eyes stopped on a small boy playing quietly in the corner. The boy's name was Arin Solaris, the child many believed to be the most powerful being in existence. The girl sighed. Oh great. I time jumped to the wrong moment again. Before anyone could react, she said something that froze the entire room. My name is Valeria Solaris. She pointed toward the two people standing in the center of the lab, genius scientist Elias Solaris and the woman who could bend light itself. And I'm your daughter. The room fell completely silent, because everyone in that room knew one thing. The Solaris family's second child died many years ago. The laboratory went completely silent. No one said a word. Genius scientist Elias Solaris stared at the girl like he was trying to solve an impossible equation. Beside him, Lena Solaris, the woman who could bend light itself, slowly stepped back. Her eyes trembled, because what the girl said touched the deepest wound in their family. Many years ago, Lena had been pregnant with their second child. The whole world had been waiting for that baby to be born. If Aaron already possessed nearly godlike power, no one knew what the second child might become. But that future never happened. During the final months of her pregnancy, Lena's body began releasing strange waves of energy. Radiation detectors across their lab kept sounding alarms. The unborn baby seemed affected by all the cosmic journeys their family had taken. Elias called every brilliant mind he knew. Quantum physicists, superhuman doctors, even scientists he once considered enemies. But none of them had the answer. And one day, it ended. The baby never made it. Since that day, the Solaris family had never spoken about it again, until the girl standing in front of them said something that nearly stopped Lena's heart. I didn't die. She looked straight at them. Aaron saved me. The laboratory fell into a heavy silence. Aaron Solaris slowly stood up from the corner of the room. His eyes locked onto the strange girl as if he was staring at a memory he didn't fully understand. You said, I saved you. Valeria nodded calmly. You don't remember. You were too young. Elias quickly activated the lab's bioscan system. Blue beams of light swept across the girl's body. Data began flooding the screens. DNA, cell structure, energy signatures. The results stunned everyone. 99.8% match with the Solaris family. This girl really was their daughter. But that created an even more terrifying question. If the baby died years ago, then where did Valeria come from? Valeria stepped closer to Aaron, lowering her voice. You traveled back in time. Everyone in the room immediately turned toward the boy. Aaron frowned slightly. Small sparks of energy flickered around his hands. I did that. Valeria gave a small smile. You went back to the moment I was about to disappear. She looked directly at her parents. Then you pulled my consciousness out of the timeline and sent me somewhere else. Elias shook his head slowly. That's impossible, Valeria continued. Until today. She looked around the room. The timelines are starting to converge again, and that meant one thing. Reality itself was about to change. The monitors in the laboratory suddenly started flickering. Every space-time detector began screaming with warnings. Energy charts twisted like storms forming inside the structure of the universe itself. Elias Solaris stared at the data. This isn't just one timeline shifting. He swallowed hard. There are thousands of timelines colliding. Valeria walked calmly toward the control panel. Her eyes scanned the complex equations as if they were simple puzzles. That's right. She spoke quietly. Because I was never supposed to exist in this reality. Aaron looked at his sister, a growing sense of unease rising inside him. What do you mean? Valeria took a deep breath. In the original timeline, I died. But when you saved me, you created a paradox. She pointed to the rotating multiverse map on the screen. Other universes started to feel it. At that moment, the entire tower shook violently. A massive crack tore open in the air of the laboratory. Inside the rift, cosmic energy spiraled like a raging storm. A cold, deep voice echoed from the void. Finally, I have found you. A gigantic being stepped out of the rift, its body formed from cosmic light and darkness. Valeria whispered softly. This is bad. Elias asked quickly. What is that thing? Valeria stared at the entity approaching them. It's a multiversal paradox enforcer. She spoke quietly. And it came here to erase me from existence. The gigantic entity stepped out of the spatial rift, each step shaking the entire tower like an earthquake. Cosmic light spiraled around its body, forming massive rings of energy. The air in the laboratory felt heavy and hard to breathe. Elias quickly activated every defense system in the tower. Maximum energy shields. but the lasers and force waves hitting the being vanished like they were touching a star. Valeria clenched her fists. Those won't work. It isn't a normal creature. Aaron stepped forward. His eyes began to glow as space around him bent like reality itself was folding. Then I'll deal with it. In a single moment, a massive wave of energy exploded from Aaron, crashing directly into the cosmic entity. The entire room was swallowed by white light, but when the light faded, the creature was still standing, completely unharmed. It looked down at Aaron, its voice like thunder across dimensions. You are the source of the paradox. A dark wave of energy crashed down like a waterfall, blasting Aaron through a metal wall. Valeria screamed. Arin. She turned to her father, her voice shaking for the first time. We can't defeat it. Elias asked urgently. Then what do we do? Valeria looked up at the creature approaching them. Her eyes filled with the truth she didn't want to say. There is only one way to fix the paradox. She whispered softly. I have to disappear. Dust and energy smoke filled the laboratory. Aaron lay among the broken metal debris of the shattered wall. His body still released faint sparks of light. Even with power strong enough to bend reality, the last attack had nearly knocked him unconscious. The cosmic entity slowly walked toward the center of the room. Each step made space itself tremble as if the universe agreed with its judgment. The paradox must be erased. Its voice echoed through the tower. Elias stepped in front of Valeria, his hands shaking slightly as he tried to activate a spatial stabilizer. I won't let you touch her. But Valeria gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Dad, stop. Elias turned to her. No. Valeria's eyes softened, but her voice stayed firm. I've existed too long in the wrong timeline. She looked toward Lena, her mother standing frozen in shock. If I don't disappear, this reality will collapse. Cracks of light began appearing throughout the lab like shattered glass in the air. Timelines were breaking apart. Aaron struggled to stand his voice rough. No. I'll fix it. Valeria shook her head. You already fixed it once. She walked toward the cosmic entity. And this time, I'll fix it myself. The being raised its hand. Cosmic energy gathered into a massive pillar of light. Valeria turned back to look at her family one last time. A small smile. Then the light swallowed her whole. The massive light swallowed Valeria. The laboratory shook violently, as the energy pillar shot into the sky like a wound in reality itself. Lena collapsed to her knees. No. Elias stood frozen, the fading light reflecting in his eyes. The cosmic entity looked down at them, its cold voice echoing. The paradox has been corrected. Space slowly began stabilizing. The cracks in reality started sealing themselves. But at that moment, Aaron stood up. The light around him erupted stronger than ever. Not just the light of power. The light of will. He looked up at the massive being. You're wrong. The entire room trembled as reality began bending around him. The cosmic entity paused. Impossible. Aaron raised his hand. She isn't a paradox. Streams of temporal energy spiraled around him like rivers of light. She's the result of a choice. Suddenly, every monitor in the lab lit up. Timelines appeared across the screens like millions of crossing paths. Aaron closed his eyes. Last time, I saved her. He opened them again. This time, I'm going to rewrite how she is born. A massive explosion of light erupted. Reality reversed. Time began to flow backward. And somewhere inside the timeline, a tiny heart started beating again. The light from the temporal explosion slowly faded. The laboratory returned to silence as if no battle had ever happened. The scientific equipment hummed normally. The cracks in space were gone. Everything had been rewritten. Lena Solaris suddenly placed a hand on her stomach. She froze for a moment, her eyes widening in shock. Elias. Her voice trembled. I'm pregnant. The entire room fell silent. Elias looked at her, then at Aaron standing in the center of the lab. The light around the boy had faded. What did you do? Aaron looked down at his hand and smiled softly. I didn't change the future. I just returned her to where her story was supposed to begin. Months later, inside the Orion Tower medical wing, the cry of a newborn baby filled the room. A baby girl was born. Her eyes shone like distant stars. Elias held his daughter gently, still unable to fully understand everything that had happened. Lena smiled softly. We should give her a name. The door opened. A man in a dark cloak entered, the mysterious genius Victor Draven, the one who helped save both mother and child during the dangerous birth. He looked at the baby for a long moment. Then he spoke a name. Valeria. And somewhere in the future, a genius had just been born. Someone who might one day change the fate of the world. If you want to see the next part of Valeria's journey, comment number 1 to watch the next story.